Hey everyone, welcome to the next LP Comic-Con report, wrapping up Comic-Con at home. We have, 8 panels to talk about today. A few from yesterday and then a few more that went on today. So lots for us to get through. Mike, I know you have a whole slate of animation that we've been talking about. We started talking about yesterday, but I had some Marvel stuff to talk about as well. So let's jump into the Black Panther Tales of Wakanda panel that we had, which was a few of the authors from this new book. Well, I say new book. The book was released in March, actually. So it's kind of weird that we got a panel for it now. I'm sure this was recorded quite a while ago, and they were still excited to push out some more information about it. It is a really, really cool book, a really cool idea for a book. It's just essentially a book of short Black Panther stories, and they go all over the place. They're not all focused on T'Challa. They're just all tying into Wakanda in one way or another. For example, one of the stories focuses on Killmonger as the main character. Another one focuses on Storm, and the author of that story talked about how she said it felt a little bit naughty to be writing about Storm and T'Challa together because they haven't been able to be together in the movies. So it was cool to be able to bring those characters together.
But they've been married in the comics, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they have. She specifically mentioned that her love of Marvel came from the films, and she's always wanted to see those two characters come together. And unfortunately, for various reasons, that has not been the case. And hopefully that will change in the future, but we'll have to see. So yeah, it was cool just to hear from these authors about their various Black Panther stories and all of the different aspects of storytelling that went into this book. And this is, like I said, this book, Black Panther Tales of Wakanda, which is essentially just an anthology story or an anthology book. Was released back in March, so it is available now wherever books are sold. So you can check that out now. So
awesome.
Yeah, so let's switch gears a little bit, and I'll let you choose which animation panel do you want to talk about first.
I'm just gonna go in the order that they happened. So I think it would have been Central Park, right?
Yeah, right. Yep.
So Central Park happened yesterday, and this is a TV show made by 20th Television Animation, which is owned by Disney, which is why we're covering it. But it stars and was co-created by Josh Gad of Frozen fame, plays Olaf in Frozen, as you know. And it's on Apple TV Plus. I've only seen a handful of episodes of this show, but I would like to catch up. It's also co-created by Lauren Bouchard, who does Bob's Burgers. He did Home Movies. What else? Dr. Katz, Professional Therapist, way back in the day. A bunch of great animated shows. So it's got a great creative team. It's also got a really great cast. And in addition to Josh Gad, Titus Burgess from The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt is on the show, and he was on the panel. And then Leslie Odom Jr. from Hamilton is on the show, and he was also on the panel. And then they also had writers Stephen Davis and Kelvin Yu, and they really just talked about season 1 of the show, and they gave a little bit of a tease of the second season, which has already actually premiered on Apple TV Plus. I think they're halfway through season 2 airing right now. They talked about, because this show is the musical, they talked about how each episode has guest songwriters, and season 2 is going to include Regina Spektor, Rufus Wainwright, my favorite band, They Might Be Giants, are contributing a song. There's a band called Don't Stop or We'll Die. Michael Bublé, Danny Elfman, Robert Lopez, and Kristen Anderson Lopez from Frozen are writing songs for the show as well. And then they talked about their own personal relationships with the real Central Park in New York City. They talked about the villain character played by Stanley Tucci and how she was inspired by Leona Helmsley, the real life heiress character, and has a little bit of Mr. Burns quality from The Simpsons as well. Guest stars coming up in season 2 include Thomas Lennon from Reno 911, Ed Asner from Up, Pixar's Up, Patty Lupone, Dan Stevens from Legion, and Ellie Kemper, who is also from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Let's see. They talked about their favorite songs that they've already done on the show. They talked about deleted songs, deleted scenes, that kind of thing.
Did they break out into any songs on the panel?
No, but they showed clips from a couple songs.
Oh,
they
cool.
didn't. The panelists didn't sing during the panel, but they did show clips from the show, including one like really trippy, like almost kind of a Yellow Submarine type parody where the Stanley Tucci and David Diggs characters, like, I think they're high on something and like all the skyscrapers turn into weird, I don't know, plants and things. So that was fun. Yeah, it's a show that I would like to check out more when I have time. So one other fun note was that Josh Gad wanted them to do a K-pop style musical number on the show. So he hopes that they work that in soon. That's Central Park. That
is such a incredible and eclectic group of very talented people that you listed throughout that panel. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, they talked about how that kind of came together as well, because Josh Gad obviously comes from the musical theater world. He was in the Book of Mormon, which is, I remember him from the movie 21. Did you ever see that?
Yes. Yeah.
It's about like, I think it's based on a movie called Bringing Down the House, based on a novel, or it's actually like a nonfiction book called Bringing Down the House about these like Harvard or Ivy League students who like went to Vegas to try to count cards at blackjack and stuff, and they ended up winning a ton of money. But they made that movie 21. I remember that was the first time I ever knew who Josh Gad was, and then I saw him in Book of Mormon a couple times actually in New York. And then obviously he became Olaf because of the Book of Mormon, because Robert Lopez co-wrote Book of Mormon with Trey Parker and Matt Stone from South Park. But yeah, he has that whole musical theater background, and he has all these friends like Kristen Bell, who's also on Central Park, came from Frozen, obviously. But then like the Hamilton guys, Leslie Odom Jr. and David Diggs are both in it. So he has all these like musical theater buddies. And then Lauren Bouchard has a lot of friends that they've invited on the show and stuff too. So yeah, it is like a very diverse group of performers and actors and writers and stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And just to go off of a comment here. Yeah, I didn't realize that the guy from those seltzer commercials writes songs.
I know very little about Michael Bublé. I think I've seen him perform with the Muppets or something, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's pretty much just Christmas music for me. But
yeah.
All right, so we'll jump back into the Marvel universe here, and specifically, this was the Marvel Universe of Superheroes exhibition panel with a focus on the Fantastic Four. Kind of, it was 60 years of or since the debut of Fantastic Four #1, and so. Professor Benjamin Saunders, who was the curator of this Universe of Superheroes exhibition, and Tom Brevoort, the executive editor at Marvel Comics, kind of discussed the history of the Fantastic Four a little bit. This panel was done in a very weird way, where it was almost just two separate presentations, where Benjamin Saunders would talk a little bit, and then we would cut to what looked like a Zoom call with Tom Brevoort, and so it wasn't. They were never actually talking to each other. So it was very strange in that way. And like I said, they went through some of the Fantastic Four history a little bit, but it wasn't really too in depth. They didn't give us too much that, even if you have a general understanding of who these characters are, like you pretty much knew what they were saying. Aside from the fact that one interesting bit of information that I got from this panel was that Fantastic Four was really the first ongoing series that built a story from one issue to the next, whereas everything prior to that was basically a one shot. And it was just, from the cover to cover, the story was contained in that, as opposed to continuing into the next issue, which that's really cool. I never even thought about when that would have started. And I know right now, doing a show where we talk about 5 comics a week, it would drive me crazy if every single one of them was a one shot and there was no continuing story.
At the same time, like I bet when that first started, I bet people felt it was kind of like a marketing gimmick because
Probably.
you bought a comic and you're like, wait a minute, the story doesn't wrap up. I have to buy another issue to continue.
Well, I think what Tom Brevoort was talking about too was that it wasn't so much that the story didn't end, but it was more like the next issue would give a call back to an issue 3, 3 issues ago, where a villain came back or something along those lines. And then I guess it would have progressed from there into, a story taking multiple issues to wrap up. But yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then, of course, they did talk about the exhibition, which is currently in the, let me get the full name of it, the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. And that'll be wrapping up, I want to say, in October, and then going to Columbus, Ohio for a year after that.
Have you been to Chicago?
I have not, no, and I haven't gotten a chance to see this exhibition, which has been open since 2018, I believe, starting in the Mopop in Seattle.
I went to a party at that museum, the Museum of Science and Industry. They had the 501st Legion Stormtrooper party for Star Wars Celebration there in 2019. That museum is awesome. I kind of want to just go back there and look around because it's just incredibly well put together, and the exhibits are also neat looking. Really, really cool stuff. But yeah, that's like tangential to what you're talking about. Continue.
Yeah, no, it does look like a really awesome museum, and this exhibition looks really, really cool. They have costumes and props from all throughout the MCU. It looked like they had just about every Black Panther costume on display. They had the Tesseract out on display. And one exhibit that they specifically talked about, or that Saunders specifically talked about, was we refer to the Marvel Universe as the world outside your window, and that's sort of like a term that's been used for a long time, since the Stan Lee days. And they have this exhibit where it's essentially a life-size statue of Ben Grimm, the Thing from the Fantastic Four, falling asleep on a couch, and you can kind of go get your photo taken with him. But behind him is this animated window, and there's just all sorts of action going on. You'll see Spider-Man swing by and Iron Man fly in the background and all sorts of cool stuff like that. So it's kind of this whole animated exhibit dedicated to just that idea. And I think it's probably one of those things too that, a lot of kids are loving it and climbing on the Thing and getting a picture taken and stuff like that, but not even thinking about the meaning of this exhibit. And I love details like that. So cool. Yeah, so that was the look at this exhibition and a little chat about Fantastic Four. You can see that whole panel on laughingplace.com as well. All right, sorry, go ahead.
And then I did Family Guy yesterday. I covered that panel, which is a show that I used to watch regularly but don't anymore. It was mostly, this entire panel was mostly just like a trivia showdown between all the cast members and the producers that were there. Do you want to guess who won?
I mean, my money would be on Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, Seth MacFarlane won. And do you want to guess who was in last place?
Well, you kind of tipped me off to that one when you let me know that Mila Kunis was not very good at Family.
Mila Kunis was so bad. Like, as bad as you would guess she would be, she's way worse. Yeah, she was just getting stuff that I knew, and I'm extremely limited in my Family Guy knowledge, but stuff that I knew the answer to. And she's like been on the show for a long time. I don't think she was the original voice of Meg. I think she replaced somebody right early on.
Yeah, Lacey Chabert was the first.
Right.
Meg.
Right. But still, she just knew nothing. They did reference the whole Meg hate thing a couple times. Yeah. There were a little tidbits about upcoming stuff on the show. Guest stars next season are going to be Sam Elliott, Zachary Levi, Patton Oswalt, Mike Judge, Kenny Loggins, among a few others that they listed. And really, otherwise, it was really just that trivia contest. Well, I'll just list the people who were there. It was showrunners Rich Appel and Alex Sulkin, and then cast members Arif Zahir, who's the new voice of Cleveland, Alex Borstein as Lois, Mila Kunis, Meg, Seth Green is Chris, and then Seth MacFarlane is Peter, and Brian Griffin. And then the comedian who was hosting the trivia contest is named Ryan Buds. But it was fun. I mean, if you're a Family Guy fan, it's fun just to watch those guys like goof off and interact with each other. It wasn't terribly long, but yeah, it's fun enough to watch. You know, voice actors are always fun to watch goof off.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and check that one out because I am a big Family Guy fan, and that cast has been working together for so long that like their chemistry is just so natural whenever they're in these sorts of panels together, and it's always fun. Yeah. Also, got to mention you listed Peter and Brian as Seth MacFarlane's character, also Stewie.
And Stewie, yes, Stewie, yeah, multi-talented Seth MacFarlane.
All right, so we'll jump back into some more Marvel. My last Marvel panel, I promise. And this one was again really just dedicated to selling a book, more or less. And this was the.
Can I interrupt you? I'm sorry. Yeah. I just read a comment that I really liked. This Money at 30 said they should have let the manatees participate, which is a reference to the South Park episode about how they write Family Guy, and they just have these big manatees in a big tank that put these beach balls in certain, and each one has like a different pop culture reference. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
actually that bringing me back to your panel, and I have one more question for you. Did they mention that Sam Elliott was going to be reprising his role? Because he's been a guest star before, and I'm curious if he's coming back as the same character.
I don't think they said. I didn't. Who did he play previously?
I can't remember his name. It was something like he's a cowboy, and his name was like Texas West or Dallas West or something like that.
Wait, did they cast Sam Elliott as a cowboy? What a shock!
Right. And I think he ended up being the mayor or something ridiculous. I don't remember. Okay. Anyway, jumping back into this panel. So this was all about the new book, the Alex Ross Marvel Comics poster book, just very plainly named, tells you exactly what it is. And this was all about the renowned comic book artist Alex Ross, who's done lots of stuff for Marvel as well as DC and other things like that. But they hired Alex Ross to create this giant mural. When I say they, I mean Marvel. When they were opening their new offices in New York. And so he created this mural for a wall in their office, and it was just basically he had free range to just pick which characters he wanted to include, and created this really, really amazing. Sorry, got distracted by a comment here. We got an answer to the Family Guy question. But yeah, so Alex Ross created this really amazing mural for the offices, and that mural has now inspired this book, which is essentially just all of the art that went into that mural. You get a full 4-page poster that comes out of it that gives you the full mural, as well as individual pages for every character included in it. And this, I should mention too, this mural is just a long line of, I don't know the exact number, but all of your favorite Marvel characters, like all of the big ones are out there. The Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, Wolverine, Spider-Man, you got Storm, some of the other X-Men, stuff like that. So all sorts of awesome Marvel characters featured. And so, yeah, this is really just this really great new book full of awesome art from, one of the most memorable artists that Marvel has had, handling some of their comics. So he went through and he mentioned some of the characters that he specifically mentioned that he wished he could have included Nick Fury in his classic like Howling Commandos look. The quote unquote moderator, this was really a one-on-one conversation, but it was his Alex Ross's business partner Sal Abinanti, and he mentioned that his favorites were Silver Surfer, Silver Surfer, Colossus, Hawkeye, and the Punisher. Just like had some really spectacular art in this. And Alex Ross also mentioned too that he was very happy to get to include some of the classic X-Men characters like Beast and Iceman and Angel, and getting back to the classic original team as opposed to just some of the recent favorites like Cyclops and Jean Grey. Interestingly, he listed those two as the recent favorites, but not Wolverine, because I feel like that's the X-Men character everybody thinks of. But so those characters are all featured in there as well. And so you get this book, you get a page dedicated to every character featured in that mural, and then again this full 4-page poster that you can easily pull out of the book and add to your Marvel art collection.
Yeah, Alex Ross is a artist I've always admired. His work is just so like instantly recognizable as being his, but also like so iconic. Just like it's amazing how he churns it out. Like I was telling you that I'm reading some like 5-year-old Avengers comics that came out like 2016, and he did the cover art for all these issues. But it's just amazing to me that he's able to generate art of that quality so quickly. Like if I tried to paint something like that, it would take me a year. But he's able to do one cover a month, and I'm sure plenty others as well going on at the same time. So.
Yeah,
pretty
they
great.
specifically talked about the reflective quality of the sort of metallic characters, and that is sort of like the signature of Alex Ross. Is whenever you see like maybe Iron Man, you'll see like the reflection of things around him in his suit of armor. Colossus and Silver Surfer, characters like that, and it's really, really amazing that he manages to. I can't even. If you told me to add a shadow to something, I'm going to do it completely wrong. But the way that he can manage to do that is just incredible. So yeah, that was it for the Alex Ross. Let me get the name of the book again. Alex Ross Marvel Comics poster book. So again, pretty straightforward, and you can find that book is available now as well. And we have a link to it on laughingplace.com as well as the full panel.
Great, and then. After Family Guy yesterday was American Dad, which I have just now started watching because I had a previous engagement that I had to go to last night. But it's got, let's see, the cast members attending the panel were Rachel McFarlane, who I think is Seth MacFarlane's sister, right? She plays Haley Smith. Wendy Shaw plays Francine Smith. Scott Grimes is Steve Smith. D. Bradley Baker from The Clone Wars is Klaus, the little goldfish. And Jeff Fisher, who plays a character named Jeff Fisher. I'm not familiar with that. Do you know what that is?
Unless they're talking about the old coach of the Tennessee Titans, I don't think so.
Okay. American Dad is another one of those shows where I've only seen very limited amount of content coming out of. But it is produced by the Disney-owned 20th Television Animation. And then co-creator Matt Weitzman and producers Joe Chandler, Nick Wegener, and Parker D.A. were there as well. And it looks like this panel is pretty much just a read through, like a table read of the script for an upcoming episode. So I'm still working my way through that one.
Okay, well those are always fun whenever you get to hear the table reads, because I mean, usually, especially when it's like if they're going through it for the first time and you can hear them reacting to things. But those are always a lot of fun. Yeah,
I thought it was odd though that Seth MacFarlane did not show up for this panel, and he plays multiple characters on that show as well. So
right,
because he's the dad, Stan, and then he's also the alien, right? Roger.
Yes. Another interesting point about American Dad there. It does have a fantastic theme song. I will give him that. I will say I've watched American Dad off and on, and it's funny at times. It's just I haven't gotten hooked on it the way that I have with Family Guy. So
yeah,
but it is a fun show occasionally. All right, so we will jump back now, not into Marvel, but I had a Disney Parks panel, actually, believe it or not. And this was all about the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway attraction over at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and then coming to Disneyland in 2023, I believe is the opening time frame for us right now. This panel featured Charita Carter and Kevin Rafferty of Walt Disney Imagineering, Paul Rudish, the executive producer and supervising director for Wonderful World of Disney, Christopher Willis, the composer behind the Mickey Mouse shorts, and then Elsa Chang of character designer from Walt Disney Television Animation. And the big thing about this panel that we learned was Paul Rudish was talking about being tasked, or Kevin Rafferty, I believe it was actually, was being tasked with the idea of bringing a Mickey Mouse attraction to the parks. And so a lot of ideas had gone around there. And interestingly, he mentioned Toy Story Mania, or Toy Story Midway Mania, was originally planned to be a Mickey Mouse themed attraction. So I thought that was really cool. Would have loved to see plans or concept art or anything for that, because I feel like that's a very interesting idea.
Yeah, I always thought it was interesting that there wasn't a Mickey dark ride or anything.
Yeah.
I haven't been on Runaway Railway yet, but I'm planning on doing it. I'll be down there in a few weeks, and hopefully we'll get to do it during our visit. But yeah, did they talk about the decision to base it on like the current Mickey style versus the older style?
Not so much. I mean, this was. Paul Rudish he's the guy behind the current style, the Mickey shorts, and so it was really all about those shorts and transitioning them into the attraction. I never really opened up the idea of going to a more classic Mickey Mouse style. Although they did mention a really fun Easter egg that I had never heard of before. We know this attraction is loaded with Disney Easter eggs, both Mickey related and not. But one really cool one I had never heard of, the whistle they used to get the sound of the train whistle is the same whistle used for Steamboat Willie, the boat in Steamboat Willie. So they actually had that exact whistle still like in an archive and managed to use that to create the sound for the train.
So they didn't just recycle the existing audio recording. They like got the same whistle out and recorded it again. That's awesome. Yeah. That's really great.
Showed a picture of the actual whistle during the panel. So yeah, that was a really cool little Easter egg in there that, I mean, there's no way of you ever noticing that.
Right. I know that whistle.
Right. I wouldn't put that past some Disney fans.
No, somebody definitely noticed it. Knowing Disney fans, I bet there's somebody out there. Right. That's the Steamboat Willie whistle.
Aside from that, they really just talked a lot about transitioning from a two-dimensional world and creating this three-dimensional environment and letting guests get into all of the, wacky craziness of these shorts, which I absolutely love. These Mickey shorts, by the way, they're hilarious. I almost changed into my Potato Land shirt just for that. But they talked about, they actually, one easy thing about it was that because there's so much going on in the attraction, they didn't really have to change the way they tell their story or anything like that, because putting guests in the middle of it, you really feel just how like the craziness of all of these stories as everything is swirling around you, in some cases quite literally. So it was a nice transition in that way. One character in particular is very popular from this attraction, aside from obviously Mickey and Minnie and Goofy, but Chubby, the little orange bird that was created for this attraction. They said in the early tests that everybody really just quickly fell in love with Chubby, and so Paul Rudish, as they were coming out on one test, were like, this last room, we need to get Chubby in here again because people are going to love this character and they need to see more.
We have to address this comment because looks like Christopher might have given Laughing Place a little tip here. So Christopher asked, are you guys concerned about the effects that Walt Disney Imagineering Lake Nona moves? So they're moving a lot of the Imagineers down to Florida, outside of Orlando. How far outside of Orlando is Lake Nona, Mac?
Well, outside of Orlando, not very far at all, because Orlando is quite
okay. So is it technically part of Orlando?
I believe it is. Yeah, like a suburb of Orlando.
Okay.
But as far away, it's probably about half hour to 40 minutes away from Walt Disney World.
So he wants to know what is the effect that this will have on Disneyland Resort, and I feel like I had this worry when I first heard about it, but Walt Disney has been located in Glendale for a long, long time, or Imagineering has been located in Glendale for a long time, and from there, they've planned out all the resorts worldwide, right? So
Right.
I feel like they can just as easily plan stuff for California from Florida. So I think in the long run, it will be okay. I do worry about the Imagineers themselves, who, like, I saw Kevin Lively, the guy who just wrote the new script for the new Jungle Cruise version. He was saying that if it was just him, he would move down to Florida, but he didn't want his kids to lose all their friends and his wife to lose all her friends or something. So he was trying to consider other options, or I guess maybe seeing if they would let him stay and work in Glendale. But yeah, that would be my concern, is just worried about the individual Imagineers and whether or not they can stay with the company. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I think that's the biggest concern there is, people are going to have to relocate for work, and that doesn't always work in, with lives. And, but yeah, going back to what you were saying in the beginning, with WDI being located in California, I never once felt like Walt Disney World was neglected. Right. I mean, you walk around there right now and see all of the different projects going on, and even just like this Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway opening up relatively recently, given, all the circumstances over the past year. So I don't think this will really have a huge effect on any of the other parks.
Well, I have seen people complain that Disneyland gets a lot of seasonal stuff where Walt Disney World doesn't often get, like, we'll have like the overlays like Haunted Mansion Holiday and stuff like that, Small World Holiday. But I think that has more to do with the audience, the audience of locals that Disneyland has versus the audience of tourists that Walt Disney World has. So you have people going to Disneyland who live in Southern California and go multiple times a year. And it's kind of this incentive, like, okay, every time I go to the park, I'm going to get a different experience. But at Walt Disney World, I feel like it's probably more of a once a year type thing. Definitely. for most people. So that would be my understanding of why that kind of thing happens.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You're not going to see that hashtag "Be Fair to Florida." That's not going to change anytime soon. But you're not going to see "Be Fair to California." I think things will stay the same as we move forward. I think you're right about those seasonal offerings. I think it's based on the guest base that is there.
Cool.
So we have one more panel to discuss, right? Yeah.
So at noon today was The Great North, which is a Fox animated series that I've seen a few episodes of as well. Have not watched all of it, but I did enjoy what I saw. And participating in the panel were the cast members Nick Offerman from Parks and Recreation, who plays Beef Tobin on the show. Jenny Slate, who's also in Parks and Rec. She plays Judy Tobin, his daughter, I believe. Dolce Sloan, and I guess she works on The Daily Show. And she plays a character named Honeybee Shaw, who is, I think, married to Will Forte's character, Wolf Tobin. Will Forte from Saturday Night Live, Last Man on Earth.
And Parks and Rec.
And was Will Forte on Parks and Rec?
Just one episode.
No, just one. Okay, yeah. That makes sense. Paul Rust, who I knew from Upright Citizen Brigade Theater, and I think he was in like Inglourious Bastards, the Quentin Tarantino movie. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what else he's done. He was in that Netflix show Love with Gillian Jacobs. Mm-hmm. He plays Ham Tobin, one of the other kids, and then Alanis Morissette was on the panel, the singer-songwriter who plays herself, who's like the spiritual guide. Have you seen this show, Great North?
One episode, and I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I'd like to catch up on this as well. And I was enjoying the panel until I noticed it was only 23 minutes long. And I was like, that's odd. Most of these are like 45 to an hour. Yeah. And then it got to the 23-minute point and they were still talking and it just like ended. And I was like, what happened? They cut off the panel. Like somebody screwed up something somewhere. Either they stopped recording when they should have kept going, or they didn't upload the whole thing. Hopefully they fix it and we get to see the rest of it. But yeah, they were just talking about, let's see, there was like a best of montage of clips. They talked about working remotely from home during the pandemic. That was actually like a good 5-minute conversation about how they did that. Jenny Slate lives in Massachusetts, and she was talking about how she has really bad internet, and it took her a while to set up her like home recording area, but once she got it going, she was fine.
That was going to be my question, actually, was were they actually recording their voices from home?
Yeah. The whole cast, basically like halfway through the recording of season 1 was when the pandemic hit last year, and they all went their separate ways and had to like set up from home and work remotely. So actually, Will Forte was in New Zealand working on a show called Sweet Tooth. I think that's a Netflix series. So that's where he was recording from. And then let's see, they talked about, there's going to be a Halloween episode, the first Halloween episode in this upcoming season 2. And they showed a clip from that with Will Forte's character talking about something called lumber zombies, who are lumberjacks who become zombies. And then they talked a little bit about like the fan reaction to season 1 and how most people seem to enjoy it. And they got a lot of nice messages, and that's where it cut off. It was like really short. I was enjoying it. I like that group of people. So hopefully they'll get the full version up and we can finish that.
Yeah, that is definitely a fun group. I love that cast. And you're right. Like from that one episode that I saw, because it was in the middle of season 1, I hadn't watched anything else previously. It was funny though. I enjoyed it. And like I said, that cast is hilarious. So lots of funny people can only make a funny product, really.
Money at 30 said Dolce, I hope I'm saying her name right. She was on $100,000 Pyramid the other night, and she was great. Yeah, she seems like a very funny person. Obviously, she's working on the Daily Show. Right. She's got to be funny, and she's a cast member on this show.
Cool. So that's it for our Comic-Con at home. You have one more panel.
Yeah, I've got Bob's Burgers later on this afternoon, which I'm looking forward to. Bob's Burgers is a show I should have talked about because I have seen every episode of Bob's Burgers, all 10 seasons that have been on. I've kept up with that. Me and my wife are
already.
I'm shocked that it's. I know. Well, The Simpsons is at 33 now, and Bob's Burgers is at 10. Yeah, so, but I'm like very, very curious what they say about the movie, because the movie was supposed to come out, I think, last year.
Yeah, I believe so.
And they keep pushing it back, obviously, because of the pandemic. So hopefully they'll have some new info about that, and maybe the next season.
Yeah, very cool. That is a show also that I've watched a good amount of, but I haven't watched it sequentially, and I need to go back and start it from the beginning.
It's good stuff.
So, Mike will have a recap of the Bob's Burgers panel up later today, and you can check out our recaps of all of these panels that we've been talking about over the past few days. And thank you for following along with our Comic-Con at home coverage. Hopefully this is the last time we have to do this, though. Hopefully this is in person next year.
I can't. I mean, I don't want to jinx it because I did it last year. But yeah, I can't wait to do a Comic-Con recap from actual Comic-Con.
Yeah.
That would be good. I'd be happy about that.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for following along. Bye.